Well, hello. Good evening. We are back again as promised, a little bit later tonight than last night, but we're here and we've got lots and lots of information for you tonight. Just waiting for a few people to come online. Hello, Melanie. So yes, we're just waiting for a few more. Thanks to everybody who was watching last night. We've had lots of good questions and comments. I'm going to try and answer. Hiya, Judith. Please say hello when you can hear me, please. Just let me know, is the volume okay? Yeah, loads of great questions and comments from last night's little Facebook Live. Hiya, Jackie. Nice to hear from you. So yes, loads of comments last night from people. Thank you for all of those. I'll try and answer as many as I can. So tonight is about the foods and the supplements that can really help with anxiety, stress, depression, negative thoughts, and worry. And there's lots and lots of it, but we'll keep it nice and concise and answer any questions. So could somebody just let me know that you can hear me all right? Hi, Judith. Can you hear me all right? Nice to hear from you. Give me a thumbs up or something if you can hear me. And a few more popping on. That's good. That's good. So yes, tonight we're talking about foods and supplements that can really help with anxiety, stress, depression, negative thoughts, worry. They're all very similar things. People get quite shocked that certain things can really help and certain things can... Thank you, Judith. Certain things can make things an awful lot worse. We talked last night about an awful lot of things that can cause anxiety or make it an awful lot worse, which I think shocked a few people, but never mind. Never mind. And just to remind you all, we have a YouTube channel. Good. We have a YouTube channel. If you just go to YouTube and search for Newcastle Hypnotherapy, and we have lots of videos and Facebook Lives and lots of other resources there, totally free of charge, including some self-hypnosis tracks, meditation tracks, relaxing music, and quite a bit more. So we'll post a link to that a bit later on. Okay. Oh, here's Melanie coming in with a cup of tea as usual. Okay, so let's get started and start answering some questions and go over some of the topics that we've got for tonight. So, yeah, first of all, welcome to everybody who's come along. I'll answer a lot of the questions that you gave me at the end of this because I think there's going to be a few more, and I'm just really going to end up sort of answering the same questions again and again. So yes, yesterday we talked about all the foods that can cause problems, and there were lots of them. And now we're going to talk about foods that can really help mood, depression, and by taking these, you can make some big differences. So the first ones we'll cover are foods that are quick fixes. There's some foods you can take that can quickly help you to change your anxiety levels and your moods. And so the very first one, just to upset Gemma Pringle, are bananas. Bananas are amazing. They're a really good, healthy food. It's great fast food on the go. However, bananas have got lots of good things within them. They are absolutely packed with potassium, and they naturally help just to reduce anxiety and stress, bring your blood pressure down. They're quite calming. They're also good because they're full of water as well, full of vitamins and minerals. So bananas are a really good thing to have, and you've got a couple of choices. You can buy them anywhere. They're great fast food. However, the best way to eat them is wait till they've gone a little bit ripe, not black, but they should be a little bit spotty. But any way that you enjoy your bananas, do eat them. But eating those on a regular basis, especially if you're feeling anxiety or a panic attack coming on, a couple of bananas are a great way for calming people down. They also give a great energy boost, which is something we all need at the end of the day. The next one is quite unusual. We talked yesterday about caffeine being a problem for an awful lot of people because it really does push up the blood pressure and the anxiety levels. However, green tea and matcha tea, for some reason, have a magical effect going on in that it brings anxiety levels down. So drinking a couple of cups of green tea a day is much lower in caffeine, first of all, than coffee. But it's something nice that really can help to manage the anxiety levels. And there's been quite a few studies. Let me see if I can put some information on that. So green tea contains an amino acid called theanine or theanine. which has had lots of tests done recently. It has anti-anxiety and calming effects and may increase the production of serotonin and dopamine, which is all good. A 2017 review from a trusted source found that 200 milligrams of theanine improved self-reported relaxation and calmness while reducing tension in human trials. So green tea is easy to add to the diet. It's a suitable replacement for soft drinks. It's far better than coffee, alcoholic beverages. And again, the key with it is try lots of different brands to see which ones you like. Matcha tea is a stronger type of green tea. It's getting very popular now, but that also has got fantastic properties for people with anxiety, and I've suggested at least a cup of that per day. One of the links I'm going to give you later on raves on about matcha green tea and that it's probably the best mouthwash you can use. It's far better than anything else you can buy. You just put the bag in the night before of the loose tea and let it steep, and it's great for helping tea and oral health. Something else that's really good. Hello, Gemma Pringle. You've missed the banana comment, but you can read that later. Something else that's really good as a quick fix for anxiety is baked and mashed potatoes. Now, there's a lovely guy in America called Dr. Joe Esposito, who's not a GP. He is an expert in chiropractic care and nutrition. He's quite famous, and he's been saying for years that mashed and baked potatoes really can help to relax people, to bring in the serotonin, to make people feel calm, and it's a great way for getting off to sleep. In fact, he says if you can't sleep at night, just quickly go whip up a batch of mashed or baked potatoes, and it's a great way for doing that. So that's really good as a short-term thing as well. The other one is water. We usually find people who have anxiety and stress are usually a little bit dehydrated, if not a lot. So again, drinking lots of water whenever you feel anxious will help to calm things down and feel an awful lot better. But it needs to be nice, pure water, not a bottled water with sweeteners or flavorings or things like that. So those are all really good for a quick fix. If you're feeling anxious, get onto those, and that will really help. However, looking at a long-term varied diet, if you can eat the right things every day, you'll probably find your anxiety levels come down, and it works for so many of our clients. And there's a great little free app that I mentioned yesterday. This app is fantastic. It is free. You can go onto your Play Store or your iPhone store, and what you want to do is search for Dr. Gregor's Daily Dozen. And it should look, I don't know if this will pick it up, it should look something like, is that going to work for me? Looks like that. I don't know if it's getting any better. So basically, this does a couple of things. One is it's a checklist of all the foods that you need to be eating daily. It gives you lots of information. It's totally free to download, and really they should be charging a lot more money than this, but Nutrition Facts are a charity, a non-profit. And it goes through a list of all the foods that you need to eat, and I'm going to take you through that now. But the good thing is it's got nice little tick boxes. So as you eat a serving of everything, you can tick it, and it'll track what you've eaten each day, each month, each week, going back and back and back. And it's also handy as a shopping list. So I'll go through them. So the first one it tells us to have is we need to have 3 servings of beans every day. And if you're not used to eating a lot of beans, you're going to think, how the hell am I going to do that? However, if you click on the section for beans, it actually gives you examples of the sort of things you can be eating. So the first one it comes up with is a 1/4 cup of hummus or bean dip. You can buy that in the supermarkets really cheaply, but you can make it even better. Mel makes lovely hummus. So a great example of your first serving in the morning would be when you have your toast, is to put hummus on it instead of spread. Again, much healthier because the spread's full of fat, where the hummus is really good. And because it's got loads of fiber, it's got loads of nutrients, it's really nice. But the good thing about this is people who eat a lot of beans seem to live longer. They get, oh, hang on a minute. We seem to have gone. Let's see if that'll bring us back. Hi, Georgia. My computer's telling me that we've got no signal. Can people still hear us? Give us a wave, give us a little signal. Hi, Georgia. My computer's telling me that we've got no signal. Yeah, just somebody give me a signal because my computer is telling me we've got no wireless signal.
Yeah, fine.
Is it still live though? Give it a second. Signal because my computer is
telling me we've got no wireless.
Yes, you can hear me. Good. Okay, so we'll keep going. Do tell me if it goes off. So yes. Okay, Mel, can you knock this down? Thank you. So yes, we need servings of beans, 3 servings of beans every day. It's good for anxiety. It's got fiber. It's got all the right sugars, nice levels. So a serving of hummus on your toast every morning is a great way to do. But then it also talks about there's lots of other beans in there. So you could eat peas. So if you're having a packed lunch during the day, you can actually put your frozen peas in with your packed lunch and they defrost nicely by about lunchtime, and it keeps your food nicely chilled. Chickpeas, edamame beans, again, you can buy those in the supermarket. Frozen, they're soya beans. They're like big, broad beans, but they're beautiful and, again, very protective against cancer, according to Nutrition Facts. There's lentils. Now, lentils are fantastic for making soups and stews. Indian food, we eat loads of them. Miso beans, navy beans, pinto beans. Now, butter beans are absolutely amazing as well. I'd not really had butter beans until I think it was last year. And we went to Pulp Fiction in Whitley Bay and they make a butter bean mash, which is a nice dip. And you just need a tin of butter beans, whiz it up, stick some herbs in there, and it makes a lovely, lovely mash. And if you've not been along to Pulp Fiction in Whitley Bay, get yourself along there. They've got all this healthy type stuff. So if you go through that whole list, the split peas, it's very easy to put 3 servings of beans in there per day. Then the next section that we go on to is berries, and it just basically says you need 1 servings of berries per day. And an easy way to do this would be to just have a daily smoothie and add quite a lot of things into it. And it says you can have frozen, you can have fresh or dried, and of course frozen berries in the supermarkets are really, really cheap at the moment. So there's acai berries, barberries, blackberries, blueberries, cherries, Concord grapes, cranberries, goji berries. It's supposed to be very good for men as well. It helps with prostate cancer, or helps to avoid getting it, I'm told. Mulberries, raspberries, strawberries, and each of these has a little video of how to use them and how to consume them best. Then it talks about we need 3 other servings of other fruit, and this is loads of fun. So other fruit could be bananas, apples, apricots, avocados, bananas, clementines, dates, figs, grapefruit, melons, kiwi fruit, lemons, limes, mangoes. The list just goes on and on. So for healthy snacks during lunch or with breakfast, you can add those other fruits in. Greens, now these are really, really important. There's lots of different types of greens, but greens, again, detoxify the body. They help to keep the digestive system going. They'll look after the stomach. You can have kale, mustard greens, spinach, Swiss chard, turnip, cabbage. There's absolutely loads. So there's loads to choose from there. Other vegetables, now there's loads of different types. Carrots, mushrooms, artichokes. Mushrooms seem to be very useful at the moment. Studies are coming through saying people who have a serving of mushrooms each day seem to do an awful lot better with mental health. Seems to help. Garlic, onions, purple potatoes, pumpkins, sea vegetables, squash. Sweet potatoes are very good. Again, if you go to Nutrition Facts, they've got loads of different ways of using these. Zucchini and tomatoes. Now, here's one of the big ones is flax seeds. Now, loads of people go out and spend a fortune on expensive DHA, EPAs, all sorts of different oils, fish oils. Here's a really good one, is you can buy, very simply, linseeds or flax seeds. They're exactly the same thing, just depending where you live. This bag of organic ones is just £1.89. Okay, and what I do is I just take about a tablespoon or 2 each day, put it in a blender, grind it up, let it soak for about 5-10 minutes, and that goes in with the rest of the smoothie. You do need to grind these, otherwise you won't absorb what you need. Some people buy them pre-milled. The problem with that is that as soon as you open the bag, they start to degrade and don't last very long. £1.89, that'll last us about 3 months, and it's a nice way to do it. That will give you more omega-3s and the rest of the oils that you need than any supplement or fish oils, because fish oils have all got mercury or growth hormones in. I definitely recommend flax or linseeds anytime. It's a much easier way to do it. So it basically says you need a tablespoon of it a day ground per person, and you can buy brown or golden. Lots of places sell those as well. Nuts and seeds, again, these are really important because, again, useful oils. Pumpkin seeds, yeah, that's something else you could try. There's loads of different seeds you can try, but there's pumpkin seeds, not many left in our little bag, but they're great sprinkled on soup. Yeah, nuts as well. Somebody's munching on those, sorry. Nuts, a handful of nuts a day. Now you're really looking at the type that haven't been roasted and salted. You're looking for kind of fresh nuts. A lot of the cheaper stores now are selling nice big packets of them, so just about a handful each day. You want to be taking in things like almonds, Brazil nuts, cashews, chia seeds, hazelnuts, hemp seeds, pecans, pistachios, pumpkin, sesame, sunflower, and walnuts. Again, these have loads of good omega oils in it. And one of the things you can do is you can take these nuts and give them a bit of a grind. You can give them a bit of grind in a grinder, add some water, and it makes a nice nut butter. If you've got some health problems that might cause these, be careful with them. But again, look on nutritionfacts.org, as they'll tell you the best way to do these, especially for certain problems. Now, the next section is herbs and spices. These are really important, especially for anxiety. Things like turmeric seem to help, but if you're going to take turmeric, always add a little bit of black pepper to let it absorb. But you can use allspice, barberries, basil, bay leaves, cardamom, chili powder, cinnamon, cloves, coriander, curry powder, ginger, horseradish, lemongrass, mustard powder, smoked paprika, parsley, peppermint, rosemary, sage, thyme, turmeric, vanilla. The list goes on and on. Again, a couple of servings of herbs and spices a day will do you the world of good, and it really boosts up how your meals taste. The next section says we need 3 sections of whole grains. And we talked about wheat the other day, and that gluten can be a problem for an awful lot of people. So we might want to move on to things that are gluten-free. So we're missing wheat, barley, and rye. But if we move on to spelt and sourdough, they're much lower. If it's a spelt type bread, it's much, much lower in gluten than usual breads. And a lot of people who have gluten problems can get away with a spelt sourdough because it allows the bread to ferment. And the differences between buying it from an artisan bakery rather than a supermarket is it's been allowed to ferment and break down all that gluten. So we'll put a link again for food for thought in Seaton Delaval, but there's loads of little artisan bakeries around the country who make it properly without adding salt. They're not adding sugar, they're not adding yeast. It's just nicely done. So loads of grains that we need to get, and this could be barley, buckwheat, millet, oats, popcorn, quinoa, rye, teff, whole wheat pasta. I think we can also stick into there, what was I thinking of a second ago, couscous. There's lots of different ways of getting your grains in. And I'd seriously say get yourself some brown rice. If you can get basmati brown rice, it's the best one because it absorbs less of the toxins than anything else if it's in China. Use those however you want. Now it talks about beverages, and it says here 5 servings a day of clean water. And again, this is so important. Water is really good for the brain. It keeps us hydrated, not dehydrated. Not having enough water causes lots of problems. It can cause anxiety and stress to get worse. However, alcohol is not water. It's a diuretic. You know, you drink 1 and you pee out 2. That's the way it goes. Coffee's the same. Green tea is okay, but just be careful what you're drinking. If it's toxic, if it's an energy drink, if it's something with sweeteners, it doesn't count. So 5 glasses of water per day. And then also the app talks about that you need some exercise. Exercise is really important. It's not a food, but again, anxiety and stress or depression, a good session of exercise a day, 30 to 60 minutes will really help. And then the next step is we need some supplements as well. Now, I'm not one for recommending loads and loads of supplements. I used to run a health food store, which is how I know some of you. And you've got to be careful because most of the supplements you're going to buy, you're going to take them and they're going to go straight down the toilet. I don't want to mention any of the major brands that I don't think are any good, but you look at the pricing. If somebody can offer you one and then give you another one at a hell of a discount, you've got to ask, what's the quality? A lot of these things are very over-processed. Sometimes the expensive ones are a waste of time, as are the cheap ones. Usually supermarket vitamins aren't really that good. However, there's a couple of things I really recommend, and they are vitamin B12. And the one I really recommend is Nature's Aid. They do a sublingual B12, which is 1000 UG. That's a nice high level. And sublingual just means that you put it under the tongue and let it dissolve, because that's where B12 quite often gets absorbed in the body. One of those daily is really important. Nature's Aid is £8.95, and that's a 3-month supply. I'm not on commission for this. That's a really good brand. It does the job, and we see the difference in clients all the time. If you don't have enough B12 in your system, and it doesn't matter if you're veggie, vegan, or meat eater, it will give you nervous problems, nervous tics and all sorts of things. And quite often that damage can't be reversed. Yes, you can get B12 from spreads and breads and all sorts of things it's been fortified with, but I'm a bit dubious about how much that gets absorbed. That one really does the trick, and it's nice and cheap at $8.95 for 3 months. Under the tongue, a sublingual, and that's really good. So that's Nature's Aid. It's not the most expensive one on the market. It's not the cheapest, but it does the job, and it's absorbable, bioavailable, which is really nice. Another one that I recommend is vitamin D3 and magnesium. Now, again, you don't want to get a cheap, crappy one that's just going to go down the toilet. And again, Nature's Aid, they do this one, which is vitamin D3, calcium and magnesium. And again, that's £8.45 for probably a 2 to 3 month supply. That's really good quality. If you can't handle the great big capsules that they are, or the great big tablets, again, put this in your smoothie and grind it up every morning. That's really useful. However, I want to say something about D3. Lots of places now recommend vitamin D because it helps with an awful lot of illnesses. It's especially important for depression. Some places are claiming now D3 is so important for depression as it's better than medication, and they're saying the same about magnesium, but it needs to be D3, not D2. D2 is taken from under the skin of sheep's wool, lanolin as it's known. A lot of people really struggle with lanolin, especially if you have an intolerance. So this one works really well, but because it's got the magnesium and the vitamin and it's got the calcium with it, it's easily absorbed. So that is great value for what it is. It's really good quality. Really, you can buy other ones exactly the same for about £20 a month. That one's $8.95 for a 2 to 3 month supply. So that's really good, and that helps massively with anxiety, stress, and depression. The only other supplement I recommend, unless you have a serious problem, is a decent probiotic. Now, this one here is £5.51 for a month supply, and I know they do a slightly bigger version. I think they do a 2 or 3 month supply for a couple of quid more. Now, a decent probiotic is not something in a silly little drink. What you'll find is that these are just nice little veggie capsules. That's all they are. And I suggest taking 2 of those every morning before you have food as a nice drink. And that will help massively to get the good bacteria in your gut, because if there's candida or if there's not enough good bacteria, your system's not going to be working properly, and a simple probiotic daily works a treat. Those silly little drinks in dairy are not good because, first of all, the dairy is full of lactose, which is a type of sugar. It's usually dead by the time it hits the gut, despite the claims on the telly that's scientifically proved. But that will make a big difference, and usually once we get the gut health right, it makes a big difference for anxiety. Something else you might want to do is something called Engevita, which is nutritional yeast flakes. Now, the yeast is inactive, so it won't cause candida things. But if you look on the back, there is a ton of nutrition in there, including vitamin D. It's got B12, and it's just like a nutty, yeasty flake that you can stick on your soups and cereals and make a stock with. And that's good as a little boost, especially in the winter months. So try and get hold of Engevita, and I'd say take 2 tablespoons a day of that uncooked. Okay, so add it with a bit of water, add some cider apple vinegar, and that's really nice. As another booster, something I recommend is something called cider apple vinegar, which is almost gone. And this is really cheap, $1.99 for a nice big bottle like that. And again, this has got good bacteria in it. You want the right brands that are not pasteurized. I'll come back in a second. This is not pasteurized. This is simply, it's made, it's not cooked. It's just like normal vinegar, but if you have a digestive issue, you can drink this down. I'll talk about that in a minute as well. I forgot what I was going to say, but use this daily. Just use it daily as a health tonic. It helps to get rid of weight as well. But I'll talk about this a bit more when we come to digestive issues. The probiotic, the brand I use, there's a great, again, Food for Thought to make the bread. Seton Delaval. This is Food for Thought's own brand probiotic. If you just search for Food for Thought Seton Delaval, you'll come up with a website. They've got a load of stuff on there. If they haven't got what you want, give them a ring which is 0191 237 5935, because they've got thousands more products on the website, sorry, in the shop than they have on the website, but the shop's also there and the staff are really knowledgeable. If you ask them, if you've got a certain problem and you ask them, they will actually tell you if the things aren't suitable for you. So there's a number of people I've suggested they go down there, they've had a chat with the staff, and the staff have said, you don't need this, don't waste your money, we'll recommend something cheaper or just get it from your food. But probiotics are important. Finding a good brand's the hard bit though. But there's plenty of places that do a good veggie vegan probiotic and a thing, loads of good brands, so have a look about for those. So back to the notes, unless there's any more questions. So we've talked about the supplements. We need B12, magnesium, vitamin D3, probiotics, and water. The app that I've showed you is really important. Get that on your phone. It's free because, one, it's a tracker. It'll track what you're taking daily and what you're eating. It helps you when you want to go out shopping because you can go looking at it for the foods that you need, and it gives you the list. There's loads of little videos to how to use it. It's also good if you start following the app. First of all, you'll struggle to get all of those foods into your diet. But as you try, you'll find that even though you're eating more, you start to lose weight and you start to drop the bad things out of your diet because you're adding all the good things in. And the more that you feel better, the more that you do it. And you'll find that by buying all this sort of stuff, you'll find your shopping bill comes down quite a lot. The app's free. So again, just look on your app store, Android's the Play Store, on Apple, I think it's the iPhone store, whatever it is. It's dead easy to use and it works for both devices. So to answer some of the questions and the other things that we went over, yesterday we talked about the foods that can cause us problems, which were artificial sweeteners, which we know are toxic. They cause gut health problems, mental health issues, so we need to avoid those. Fizzy drinks are high in sugar, they're toxic, again, gut health problems. Refined sugar, again, gut health, immune system, mental health issues. Caffeine is quite toxic, it messes up the brain chemistry, it's acidic, again, gut health. However, a cup or two earlier on in the day for some people can be quite good, but with anxiety, I recommend we bring it down and switch it with green tea. Wheat, switch to better grains, which are gluten-free, or go for the proper spelt breads. Processed foods are a big one. Now, what we just talked about is healthy foods that you cook from scratch. Processed foods have got low nutrition, lots of fat, lots of sugar, lots of sweeteners, lots of additives, which mess up the brain. Alcohol can be acidic, kills brain cells, gut health problems, reduces serotonin. However, a couple of glasses of red wine 2 or 3 times a week seems to be showing in studies as well that can help with anxiety. So it depends what you're drinking. If you're drinking high alcohol products or whether algo pops, I don't know the word is, cocktails, all these, you want to check what's in there because a lot of these colorants and things can cause a problem. I know an awful lot of ciders, for example, are just alcohol with flavoring and a load of sweeteners. I think Strongbow have just switched back to being real apples with proper cider in there. So this is something to look at. Again, look at your wine. Sometimes you can find wines without sulfites. But again, quite often with a lot of these things is cut them out, see how you feel for a couple of weeks, and then come back on them and see how bad they made you feel. We also talked about dairy, which causes major inflammation, gut issues, high sugar. It's got casomorphine, so we can switch. Fried foods aren't good either. High in fat, low nutrition, bad fats. Salt dehydrates you, which causes problems. It's toxic. And processed meats are just high in salt, fat, and additives. So with all of this, I'd suggest one of the big things is to get a food intolerance test done. This checks which things you're sensitive to, which things you're all right with, and it also comes back with a list of the things that you need to put it right. If you get that done by Food for Thought, which I'll put the link for, it comes back with that list naturally. And it gives you some little guidance of how to do that. Or if you want to do a session with me, we can go through and help with that as well. The other thing is candida. If you have a candida problem, which I'm finding a lot of people do, that can cause problems. And again, that test really helps. So if you start switching onto these healthier foods, you're going to find you're going to feel an awful lot better. It'll help to bring the anxiety down. If you get under those supplements and get the right ones, that's really going to help. But yesterday we got an awful lot of questions when I went through all of that, and I'm expecting some more tonight. So one of the questions we got was heartburn. Now, heartburn's basically you've got undigested food in the gut, which is pushing the digestive acids up into the tract down here, the esophagus. I used to get it really badly before I went vegetarian. I actually went and had the investigations done and all sorts of stuff. And it's not nice because it really gets up here. Sometimes I was walking around after a pint of Guinness and I felt like it was just sitting in my throat. So it's food that's not being digestive. And there's two ways that we can work on this. One is start eating foods that aren't quite as hard to digest. So I'd cut back on the meat, eat vegetables that are cooked quite nicely, although they're not quite as nice when you overcook them. Cut down on the wheat, cut down on the gluten, eat smaller amounts, and let your body digest them. And over time, if you start moving to more sort of fruit and veg, your body will start to digest it and get better. However, there's a quicker fix, and it doesn't really make sense, and that is cider apple vinegar, because my doctor told me not to try this, but it worked a treat. Now, cider apple vinegar is very acidic. However, if you take a small shot glass type amount in the morning and take one before each meal, just knocking it back, sometimes with a bit of water helps, or putting it on food, this boosts up the digestive power of your stomach, and very quickly it can help to digest that food. So normally I recommend cut out the meat, cut out the dairy, cut out sort of hard to digest foods, eat lots of fruit and veg, start using this regularly. Probiotics will also help. It's just a sign that your gut is not working properly, which means you won't be absorbing your food. And usually by doing that pretty quickly, you'll find that heartburn goes down. You don't want to let heartburn continue on for too long, because if there's lots of acids up here, it really risks the rate of people getting cancer. The risk of it goes through the roof here. So we want to keep those acids down in the stomach. Again, I would suggest getting a test done to see what's causing a problem. I know a few clients lately have had problems with sort of oranges and strawberries. They've not realized that, but if those foods aren't getting digested again, it's pushing the food up, which is quite good. The other thing, the other big question we got last night was artificial sweeteners, and people were saying, where the hell can I find stuff that's sweetener free? Because it's in all sorts of junk food and processed foods. It's very rare I drink cordial, but if you go to most supermarkets, they're full of sweeteners and sugars all the way through. It's a nightmare. The brand I recommend is Rox and Belvoir. Both do cordials that don't have sweeteners in them. Now, Rox for a nice big bottle is about £2.95 compared to your £1.50 for your supermarket brands or some other brands, which is a bit more expensive. However, the Rox is so concentrated, it works out cheaper in the long run because you're going to get so much more out of a bottle. I think you get 3 times out of a bottle compared to some of the other brands, which I'm trying not to say. So have a look around. There are other brands out there, but most of them, I mean, the Co-op are dreadful. The Co-op haven't got a single one in there that hasn't got sweeteners in. Sainsbury's have Rox and Belvoir and a couple of other ones. As if it comes to pops, the fizzy drinks, if you're going to choose between regular cola, and I'm trying not to mention the brand, and their diet version, I would go for the regular without the sweeteners in it, even though it's higher in sugar, because that's better for you. However, the normal cola for most brands is so toxic to the brain, neurotoxic, it causes loads of problems with anxiety. The amount of caffeine just pushes you through the roof. So instead, I would go for Fever Tree or Fentimans. Those are both botanically brewed. They've actually got real ingredients of cola in them, rather than the chemical mismatch of all the stuff that's going on. So go for better brands. Sainsbury's have one of their own bottles of lemonade that isn't diet, that doesn't have any sweeteners. So Sainsbury's is a really good example because they've got sucralose in an awful lot of their products. Now, if you want to look at the animal testing results for sucralose, which is also known as Splenda, the organs of the animals just increase massively in size. And remember that these are vasoconstrictors. They push the blood pressure up, they push your anxiety up. So we really want to cut them out. Stevia's out there as well. It's better, but usually I'm finding there was a big brand of cola launched a few months ago that said sweetened with stevia, but then underneath in little letters there was sucralose and aspartame and all sorts of other things. And it really wasn't what they were claiming it is. So watch out for the marketing. Another question was, are these sweeteners and all these additives in food dangerous for kids? And I'd say yes, there's no proof that they're not safe. We know tartrazine and other colorings really messes about with kids' minds. It messes up brain development like you wouldn't believe. We all love our kids, and at the end of the day, although it's a bit more difficult, it's a little bit more expensive, we don't give them the stuff they ask for. If you love your kids, for God's sake, don't give them that. It really is not good. It really will hold back the brain development. Something else we talked about was milks yesterday, and a question that came in is goat's milk better than normal cow's milk? Cow's milk is not designed for humans. The scary thing is that if we take the cow's milk and then we pasteurize it and we homogenize it, which is what we do before humans get it to stop it going off, if we feed that back to the calf dies within about 2 or 3 days, which is quite scary. But then we take it for the rest of our life. The reason why animal milks are bad is there's casomorphine in there. It's hard to digest. It creates tons and tons of inflammation, and we want to avoid that. So there's lots of alternatives out there. Somebody asked, is goat's milk all right? It's better because there's less lactose, but it's still not meant for humans, and it still causes anxiety problems. Lactose-free products have still got all the other proteins and stuff we can't handle. So what I suggest is just move on to plant milks. There's loads of plant milks. So an easy way is to buy a big bag of organic oats, which costs about a couple of pounds, put in a blender with some water, and you've got oat milk nice and fresh. You can buy cartons of it, and we've got some here. Thanks. This is Oatly. Now this is Oatly chocolate. So if you want to make a hot chocolate, just simply stick this in a pan. Oatly is lovely. This was about £1.20, I think it was. It's a bit more expensive because it's got the chocolate in it. So that's a plant milk that's absolutely delicious and tastes far better than that rubbish you buy in a jar that's all purple and white. Another brand of milk is their Sainsbury's unsweetened soya milk. Now, according to nutritionfacts.org, soya milk really helps to protect us against cancer. It's got these phytoestrogens which reduce it down and keep our normal estrogens at decent levels, and no, it won't affect the guys. That's about £1, which is really good. I was talking about buying bags of oats. Now look at this. This was a 3 kg bag of oats that we bought. Now this is organic, and I think this was about £7, and we bought this last year, and we've only got halfway through it. That's really handy. But there's loads of brands of plant milks out there, so it's just looking about. There's oat, there's soya, there's coconut, there's hemp, there's hazelnut. I'm sure there's loads more different types. But then if you're looking for other alternatives to cheese, there's loads of brands of vegan cheeses, they call them now, all dairy-free. This one's called Sheese. Now, I remember when I went vegan years ago, Sheese was disgusting. It was like plastic. This one tastes really nice now, and I'm sure this is made out of coconut oil, which is good, especially if you've got candida, and that tastes really nice. That little bag, quite a big bag, it's £2.95, and it melts just like regular cheese, and that's a mature cheddar. There's loads out there. You can also get lots and lots of different brands of mayonnaise now. The best one I recommend is something called Vegenaise or Vegenaise. They do soy-free versions, garlic versions, hot spicy versions. These are really nice. I can't find the price on that, but I think those are about £2.50 in the supermarket. I know Sainsbury's stock it, and that is beautiful. That is much nicer than the old Hellman stuff that I had long before I packed all this sort of stuff in. What else do we want to look at? We're looking at sugars. Now, sugars, there's loads of different options. You can buy molasses from most health food shops. A lot of the supermarkets do this as well. You can also get date syrup. You can get maple syrup. You can get fruit sugar. There's something called Sweet Freedom. These are all better than bog standard sugars that come along. And there's a comment there. Tesco's does botanical cola at 1 litre at 45p. Now, that's a good question. If you find a supermarket does something that you want, but your local branch doesn't have it, you can order it. Ring them up and tell them you're coming in, and they usually can have it there in a day or two. Tesco is not a place I shop at, but I know they do that quite a lot. Sainsbury's, I think, do that as well. So there's quite a lot there. So really what you'll find is if you explore, if you go down that little bit of an aisle called the health food aisle that people have not been in before, there's usually loads of alternatives. There's also a free from aisle, which does healthier breads and all sorts of things. It's just spending a bit of time and finding it. And the other thing to do is go and find your local health food store. You'll find loads of food you've not tried before. And this is something that's important. We've gone through a short list on that app of the things that are available. And if we look at it in reality, there's about 120,000 foods on this planet, as Dr. Joe says all the time, that are edible. And most people stick to a diet of about a dozen in a variation. And I know that when I went vegetarian, now this was quite some years ago, I started finding couscous and quinoa. And I found that, unlike my mother, if I cooked veg nicely, just very gently, very quickly, I could quickly whip up a meal that didn't taste horrible because it wasn't overcooked. I found I could really get on and make things nice and easily. And there's loads of things out there. So it's about going out and trying and finding them. In your supermarkets, there's loads of fruit and veg. Try something new each week. If you can find usually smaller retailers for fruit and veg, they quite often have loads of weird and wonderful things, especially ones in sort of areas where there's a lot of mixed communities. So we've got a place in Fenham called Hutchinson's, I think it's called, and there's loads of things in there we've never even seen before. We keep trying different things, and sometimes they're horrible and sometimes they're lovely. But just try lots of new foods, and there's 120,000 foods out there, and there's just loads of them that are good, especially green leafy veg and everything else. So, do we have any other questions? I don't know if Mel.
Do John? Do you just one about linseed?
What was the question? Sorry, I missed that.
All linseed bad for thyroid problems?
That I would have to check. I've never heard that before. Linseeds are just purely a seed that's got loads of omega in it. I can't see a problem. But if you look for nutritionfacts.org, you can go on there and you can actually search for thyroid problems. Put linseed or flaxseed in there as well. And there's usually videos about everything. There will be a load of videos on there which will teach you how to get your thyroid working naturally. Quite often we find things sometimes work better than medication without the side effects. Such as Brazil nuts are really good for cholesterol. There's loads of little videos there. That's something I would take some advice on by looking at that fact. You can contact Dr. Grieger himself. Also, Dr. Joe Esposito in America, you can email him. He will give you advice, and also speak to your own GP on those sort of things. Don't mess about with stuff like that. However, I know a lot of people who've got their thyroid problems sorted out because they've moved onto a plant-based diet or just removed things out of it. So do check on that and get it right. I wasn't aware of any hygiene problems, but again, just check on that. Anything else, Mel?
That was it.
That was it. Has anybody else got any questions that you'd like to post in the comments? The book. Oh, yes. Now, there's all these new ingredients that you can start cooking with and getting into your diet. There's lots of ways of doing it. First of all, if you go onto YouTube and just search for healthy recipes, there'll be loads to do it. You could search for recipes to do with lentils. So, for example, we love curries and we boil lentils up. They make a great base for soups and stews. We add all sorts of packets, and there's loads of nice things you can do. Lentils are great. Chickpeas, again, fantastic. We can eat those all day. One of the best resources I've seen is there is a book called How Not to Die Cookbook. Now, Dr. Grieger wrote a book ages ago called How Not to Die, which is a book about eating healthily, and he mentions anxiety in there, and I'll definitely try and get hold of a copy of that. But the cookbook is full of all sorts of things that show you how to use a lot of these ingredients. I'm sure you can get it now as a paperback rather than a hardback book, but there's loads of things in here. So to give you some examples, and it's all delicious stuff as well. So it shows you how to prepare foods, how to do it simply, how to cook it. He actually
I really recommend the date syrup.
Yeah, date syrup's really nice. Simple preparations. So it teaches you how to make almond milk, how to make date syrup. There's a lovely savory spice blend, which is a load of everyday spices you can buy from the supermarket or a health food store. And he teaches you how to make this, blend it together, and you can use this in all sorts of different things. We put it on chickpeas, and it's absolutely gorgeous. You can add it into meals. It's nice on potato wedges or chips. There's loads and loads of different ways you can do that. He talks about how to make your own cashew cheese with cashews. Roasted garlic, vegetable broth, ranch dressing. Now that's really nice. We've had that a few times. How to use garlic. There's a balsamic date glaze. There's a healthy hot sauce. something called harissa. So he's got a whole list of what to do for breakfast. Summertime oatmeal, superfood breakfast bites, French toast. I could go on all night about this. Warm pear compote, chocolate oatmeal.
Made us hungry.
Just look, yeah, I know it's making me hungry now for doing this. Baked apple crumbles, Indian style spinach and tomatoes, yellow rice with black beans and broccoli. Now there's a good tip if you're cooking rice, go for brown basmati. It's better than white every time. Add a little bit of turmeric to it and just a few pinches of black pepper, and then you can add any other spices you like, and you've got something which is much nicer than a savory rice. You don't need a lot of veg with that. Just add some frozen veg into there and it's beautiful. Vegetable unfried rice. Again, it teaches you how to cook without oil, which is really important. Most of the cooking I do, we don't use any oil at all. Bean patties, portobellos on toast, whole roasted cauliflowers with lemon tahini sauce, courgette noodles, spinach and mushroom black bean burritos, burgers, wraps, and there's just so much more. You can go forever. So that book I would definitely recommend. How Not to Die cookbook. There's loads of stuff in there.
He's brought a new one out as well.
And there's another book I believe out for Christmas called How Not to Diet, and again it's just about using the app to really get the weight down. So we've covered loads of things there tonight, and what I'm saying to you is cutting out the bad foods can reduce your anxiety way down. Bringing in lots of good foods will do exactly the same. And when you mix that with doing some mental health exercises, learning some self-hypnosis, it's a big part of what we do in helping clients to get rid of that anxiety totally in 90 days and to make life an awful lot better. So we will put a copy of this up on our YouTube channel. We'll put a link. There are lots of other videos there that will help you. Again, if you've got questions or comments, please do send them through to me and I'll do my best to answer them. If you've got any ideas for some Facebook Lives, by all means, I will consider those and we can do them. We've got lots more coming up. If you've got some friends that you think would help with some advice on anxiety, stress, depression, negative thought, worry, just tag them in the comments. That'll alert them to it. What does that say? Please repeat the name of the app, Mark. The app is called The Daily Dozen. It's got a little green symbol with a V in it, by Dr. M. Gregor. So if you have a look on your app store, it's there. It's easy to find, and I'll see if I can put a link in the comments as well. So yes, any friends, just tag them and that'll help them to see this sort of stuff. I'll put a link for the YouTube channel where there's lots more there as well. You can also find some extra resources on our main website. I'm getting tired now. Main website, which is Newcastle Hypnotherapy. So it's Newcastle-hypnotherapy.com. I'll put a link for that as well. If you have a look at that website, there's loads of resources. We also run lots and lots of workshops called the Secret Workshops. The next ones, I believe, are the 11th of December, and those are the secrets of being happy and the secrets of building self-confidence. We might, a few people have asked if we might do that as a sort of a webinar. If enough people are interested in that, do let me know when we might do that as an online event. And then finally, we also do free strategy sessions for people who would like to get a handle on anxiety and stress for good. If you'd like to do that, you can either PM me or put a comment below with strategy session and I'll contact you in the next day or two. And this is just where you get a chance to talk about your anxiety problems. I can then sit with you and go through it and put a roadmap of the best way of moving forward, just what we'll suggest. And if you like, you can then decide if you want to work with us and if we'll decide to work with you, because we do look for people who are committed. And just to give you an example before I go, if you look at my own timeline, and I'll try and put this on, we had a lovely lady called Zoe came to us a couple of months back, and she had a very hard addiction to diet colas. And she found it was difficult to give them up. She tried everything she could, and they were causing problems because they were causing pain and other health issues as well. And she came to us and said, I'm just trying to find a way to be able to change my eating, to put better things in place. And this sometimes is the big issue for people, is that when they try to make changes, they find it hard. It's too difficult for them. And that's where self-hypnosis, hypnosis, and NLP come in, and that we can give you the extra power, the willpower, the needs that you have there to make those changes and change your diet. Now, as a result of that, if you look at that review, which is on my timeline, she basically now says she's lost I think last time I spoke to her, 12 pounds without really trying. She's now eating a much wider range of foods and really enjoying it. She's cut out everything she wanted to cut out. But the most important thing was she went home from that session never needing to drink that Diet Coke again. And she tried everything she could. So there's lots of help and support that's there. So I hope you've enjoyed that. There's a lot of information. Find this on YouTube to watch it again. Send us your questions, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Take care and enjoy your weekend.